An encore presentation again. We have him back. John Galandak, President, Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey. And for the first time, Andrew Musick, who is Director of Taxation and Economic Development, New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Good to have you with us, gentlemen.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Good to be here. Having me.
Let's talk the economy and business issues in the state of New Jersey. John, we're at in the summer, late June 2015. Economy in New Jersey, how are we doing as we move into the summer months?
Improving, cautiously optimistic, steady but slow growth.
Listen, people watching the show, it's going to be a little bit after that as well. Predict the summer down at the Jersey Shore.
I think we're going to have a great summer at the Jersey Shore. I live down in Point Pleasant Beach, and I'm excited for everybody to get down there. And
you really want people down there? You really want them all down?
I love it.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it good for the town?
I think it's great for the town. I think you get a great influx of tourists that come in, get to meet a lot of people. I think what's really funny is that my cell phone rings a lot more in the summer than it does in the winter.
Does it?
Absolutely. All my friends want to come visit.
Exactly. John, talk about the impact of, in all seriousness, about the impact of the Jersey Shore in these summer months, these few summer months, on the economy of the state.
I think it's critical, not just for the summer months, but I think it helps build New Jersey's brand. People from around the country certainly know about the Jersey Shore and make it a point to visit for that reason. And so it's critical to our economy. It has its greatest impact in the summer months, but I think it has an impact throughout the year.
So, Andrew, we're actually shooting on June 30th,
That's
the
right.
very day that Governor Christie announced that he's running for president.
Oh, did he do that today?
Yeah, he did that today. He said he's partly running on his record of New Jersey, partly running on his economic record of New Jersey. Is that economic record good enough to get him elected president, Andrew?
Well, I think one really good thing that the governor's done, and this is with help from the legislature, is that they've really brought predictability to the business community here in New Jersey. And when the business community has predictability in terms of tax rates, great economic incentives for job growth and economic development, when they have that predictability and confidence, that's what's going to make them create jobs.
John, the Democrats tried to do some things in this budget regarding tax policy, particularly regarding the business community. What did they try to do? What was the governor's response?
They tried to bring back again the millionaire's tax, which they've done a number of times. The governor promised from his first year in office that he would veto it if it came to his desk. And he did that again by, executing the line item veto that he can do within the budget. And they were also going to add to the CBT cost, the corporate business tax in New Jersey as a temporary measure. But temporary to us seems to never sunset. So he line item that out as well and essentially restored the budget, the level of the budget that he proposed back in February when he proposed the original budget.
When he signed the budget, the governor gave a press conference, and I think in that press conference he talked about Mercedes-Benz USA, how they left to Georgia, for Georgia, and that taxes were the reason, or at least one of the reasons, that the Democrats don't understand. We've been doing this show a long time. The Democrats say that taxes is just one and not necessarily the most important factor that businesses take into consideration when they decide to stay or to go. What's the answer?
Yeah, John Galandak, you first.
He is right that, or the Democrats are right in the sense that it's only one factor, but it's a critical factor, especially when the costs, the overall cost of doing business here, clearly outstrips other states. I think in the case of Mercedes-Benz, and it's different for each company, that CEO said that he can operate for 20% less in another state. And so when it gets that dramatic a difference between us and another location, then it is probably the most critical factor.
But
the cost of doing business.
when it gets that dramatic, maybe we just can't compete on those terms. Maybe we have to use some of those other advantages that the state has, right? I mean, how low can you go?
I think it really is a competitiveness issue. I think that it's not only a competitiveness issue for the companies here in New Jersey, but it's also an issue for the companies that are considering locating here. The governor and the legislature have done a great job, as I mentioned, creating economic development incentives to bring companies here. We have a great workforce in New Jersey, a great transportation network, and we would hope that those companies see competitive rates when they're considering where to locate.
Let's talk about tax incentives, business incentives. We had Gordon McInnes, former state senator who heads up an organization called Policy Perspective, New Jersey Policy Perspective. He sat right here, John Galandak, and he said, the state of New Jersey is giving way too many tax incentives, business incentives, sweetheart deals to businesses to either come to the state or those who are in the state to move down the block, across the street, to the next town over. And it is too much money and it's not worth the return that we're getting, you say?
He's absolutely wrong. We have very few tools as it is, probably not enough to do as much as we'd like to do to bring businesses here, to keep them here, to have them expand here. There are folks who talk about these incentive programs, but truly, unless you're one of the finalists when being considered for a place to do business, the incentives don't even come into play. So we really do need to continue to do two things. Drive down the cost of doing business here, and there are ways we can do that. We can do things like consolidation, shared services, and actually do what government needs to do, but do it at a lower cost. But at the same time, these incentives are critical to be a tiebreaker in some cases to bring the businesses here and keep them here.
Andrew, are they worth it?
I think they are. From my perspective, the companies actually have to earn these economic development incentives. They're going to come here, they're going to create the jobs and the investment, and they otherwise wouldn't have come to the state but for these incentives. So from my perspective, it's either a wash or it's going to create additional revenue here in the state.
But don't they have to be more rigorous, more scrutinized than they have been so far? I mean, if I remember correctly, and I'm not sure I do.
Rutgers University is doing a study right now to examine,
exactly.
in fact, academically, scholarly, what the return has been. Go ahead.
Exactly, exactly. Do they need to be checked out and to see if they do actually work the way they have been implemented?
Absolutely, and that's something that we always advocate for is transparency. And as Steve mentioned, you are seeing Rutgers and the NJBIA work together.
New Jersey Economic Development Authority.
To bring about a little bit more transparency to the program.
Now, Andrew, earlier you mentioned one of the advantages that the state has is this great transportation infrastructure. In this year's budget, there is no money put to the Transportation Trust Fund. Have our leaders, the governor and the elected officials and the legislature been short-sighted about this?
I think when looking at transportation and infrastructure in general, it's important to not only look at the roads, but everything that goes into infrastructure. You know, there's wires, the sewer system, electricity. It's all very important for business. They utilize it. They utilize these systems really in everyday course of business.
Okay, but the question really is, sorry, Raf, for interrupting.
Yeah,
what do you say to those who argue, including Tom Bracken, who is the head of the CEO of the New Jersey State Chamber of Commerce, who says, you know what? They did punt on this in the legislature, and they didn't do the right thing. And they should have, in fact, raised the gas tax in order to get this done, to put money into the Transportation Trust Fund to fix the roads and bridges. You say, John Galandak?
I agree with Tom Bracken in that, partly anyway, in that they did kind of put off the tough decisions until after the election.
So you're for raising that tax?
No, I said partly agree with him. Okay. About putting off the decision. There are a number of options on the table.
Where are they going to get the money, John?
There's a number of different options, and again,
well, you got to square that circle somehow.
You do.
I mean, sooner or later, you got to pay it somehow. And a gas tag is a user fee, right?
What's so wrong about raising? Seriously, what is so wrong about raising the gas tax when, in fact, New Jersey has the second lowest gas tax in the nation? What's bad about that?
And you're taxing the people who are using it, and a lot of those people are not New Jerseyans.
That's right. Is that a bad idea?
I think it's something that we need to look at in terms of wholesale infrastructure reform within the state. As I mentioned, you know, electricity, water, and I think we always have to kind of evaluate the impact that might have on the number of small businesses in the state. You know, a lot of times they have a small margin for error in terms of their profit, and it's something that's important for them to consider.
You're not willing to say you're for it, John?
Well, I shouldn't do the same thing that the legislature's done, and that's punt until some time in the future. Truth is, it's an important, it's one of our critical strengths, the infrastructure. It does need to be maintained. It's broke, and there's some dangerous situations out there. So it's something that's unavoidable to confront, but we need to do it in its totality. Step number one really needs to be to lock that up, because in years past, the Transportation Trust Fund had money in it. It was rated for other purposes. So it is somewhat of a trust issue where when people
trust the trust fund.
Exactly.
Okay. Real quickly.
Pay sick leave.
Yeah, pay sick leave. The legislature wants the Senate. Some people in the Senate want it. What do you say?
We have
mandated sick leave for the employer.
We have a lot of concerns with the
biggest concern.
paid sick leave. Biggest concern, the impact it has on small businesses in the state.
Someone says, "Hey, you're sick. You can't come to work. You should be paid."
I don't think that we wouldn't want people to come to work when they're sick, but
you don't want to pay for them when they're sick.
Well, the fact is that 70% of businesses here in the state already have some sort of paid sick leave policies, and we would like to see maybe an incentive for those 30% that don't to encourage them to have a paid sick leave
versus
policy.
having government force them.
That's correct.
John?
Slightly different approach. It's a way that companies can compete for good employees. The benefits package. Some give, some don't, and it's a good way to build their team and so that they can be competitive within their industry. And if I could quote Senator Bucco during the hearings in the
Senator
Senate,
Tony Bucco, go ahead.
in the Senate Labor Committee, he said the state government should not be the bargaining unit for private sector jobs.
All right.
He
very
did say
good.
that.
He did.
Thank
Well,
you, John.
gentlemen, thank you so
Andrew.
much.
Appreciate it.
And that's it for this edition of New Jersey Capital Report. For my colleague Steve Adubato, I'm Rafael Piramon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.